Welcome to Conceptual Cambridge. Today we are going to cover trigonometry. So let's begin. So let's begin with periods and amplitudes. So firstly, what are periods? So basically a period is when one cycle of the graph is completed or when the repetition starts. So for example, if I was to take the starting point from 0 and 1, as you can see the graph will go on till over here, and after this point the graph will repeat. So from 0 to 360 there is one period. As you can see over here the graph starts to repeat after 360. So what this means is that one period is equal to 360. So this is what period means. And now what is amplitude? So basically amplitude is just the distance from the center to the maximum or the minimum point. So for example, from 0 to 1, uh, or let's see, as you can see 180 over here, and I go down. So as you can see, as I go down, the displacement is from 0 to -1. That is what the amplitude is. Or if I choose 360, I can go up, and this is from 0 to 1. The displacement is from 0 to 1. The graph has moved from the center 1 up. This is what the amplitude is. Now let's move on. Let's discuss sine, cos, and tan. To understand this, you need to first understand opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. So let's begin with hypotenuse. What is hypotenuse? Hypotenuse is the longest side of the triangle, or whatever is in front of the 90-degree angle, which in this case is this side. So this is the hypotenuse. Now what is the opposite? The opposite is the side which is in front of the angle, and this is your angle over here, as you can see. So this is supposed to be your opposite, and adjacent is the leftover side. So in this case this is the adjacent. Now you need to know sine, cos, and tan and what they do with these things. So to understand this, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. It will be hard to memorize this, but you can use mnemonics like this. So ka toa, sine is so, cos is ka, and tan is toa. This is how students memorize this. So basically the the O is opposite, the H is hypotenuse. So what this means is that sine of x is equal to O over H. Same thing for cos. So ka, which means cos of x is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Same thing for tan. Tan of x is equal to opposite over adjacent. So as you can see, the first word states what it is, like sine, cos, or tan, and the second one describes how we will use it. Let's continue. Now let's discuss the graph of sine, cos, and tan. First of all, as you can see, the sine graph and the cos graph have the same minimum and the same maximum value. So for example, as you can see, maximum value is 1 and 1 for both, and the minimum value is -1 and -1 for both. This is something you should know. So the values will only stay in between this, and it will not go above or below this. And you can always find the value by putting it in your calculator. Now for the tan graph, as you can see in the tan graph, the lines are not going to touch -90, draw it, -90 or 90 or 270, and even this 450 line. You get my point that after every 180 these asymptotes line will be drawn. So what are asymptotes lines? Basically the graph will always reach closer to these lines, but it will never touch them. As you can see, the graph is not touching it over here, or over here. You need to know this. So there will be no value of the graph at this point. Now let's move on. So here we have a trigonometric equation. Solve sine of x is equal to 0.5, and they have also given the domain minus 360 to 360. So for these type of questions, students memorize the quadrants, but that is not a method that I like. So I'm going to teach you another method, which is graphical method. So let's draw the graph of sine of x. Since we need to draw from minus 360, this graph will also go back something like this. So let's see, this is from 0 to 360, and now this graph will also go back like this. This is minus 360. So what sine of x basically means is that y, this is the y. So your y is equal to 0.5. So they're asking you the value of x for which your y is equivalent to 0.5. So 0.5 can be at any value. So for example, let's say it's over here, and we draw a line like this. So now as you can see, you will have four answers for x: one over here, one over here, one over here, and one over here. Let me just label some more points: 90, 180, 270, minus 90, minus 180, and this will be minus 270. So now first of all, what I'm going to do is use my calculator and use the sine inverse function. Let me show you how to do that. So as you can see, I have my calculator over here. So what I'm going to do is press shift, then press sine. This gives me, this will give me the value of x at which I have a specific y value. So for example, the y value is 0.5. So as you can see, it gives me 30. So now this is my principal value. So now my this first point is going to be 30. Now you need to know the distance from this. So basically the distance from this 90. So 90 minus 30 is 60. You have your distance. So the distance from this point to this point is 60. The distance from this to the second point will also be the same. So this is basically 90 plus 60, which is equal to 150. 60 degree and 150 degree. You have two answers. Now let's see what about the negative ones. So at the negative place, the distance is also going to be the same, which is 60 and 60 from minus 270. So as you can see, what I'm going to do is use minus 270 minus 60. This is going to be one of my answers, which gives me minus 300 minus 30 minus 330 minus 330 degrees. Now same with the other answer, but I'm going to do a plus minus 270 plus 60. This gives me the answer of minus 210. So this is minus 210, and this point is minus 330. So my answer for x is going to be 30, 150 minus 330 and minus 210. These are all my answers.